Rights Watch on Friday urged Tunisia to put an end to what it called the collective expulsions of black African migrants. A report titled 105 Promises, 13 Achievements takes a closer look at the second 7-year term of Gabonese President Ali Bongo. Kubik, a startup company, is proud of its pioneering climate-friendly technology that recycles one of the world's environmental curses, plastic waste, into construction blocks. Good afternoon. Welcome to Saturday's news edition. I am Itunu Shuneye. Starting from the national scene, the end-of-year exams are over and results are being compiled. But the results are still positive, according to the school principal. More reports in the following. It has been a successful school year, even though the exam results are not yet finalized. The government has made great efforts to ensure that the education sector have a peaceful school year as usual. Everything is going on well, says the official. The peaceful school year achieved this year is the fruit of the reforms carried out in the education sector, affirmed German Gallon, who reassures us of the quality of the teaching provided this year. The results will be enlightening, he says. The headmaster of CEG, Begame, insists that nothing has been missed to ensure a smooth school year.
C'est la fin des examens nationaux de fin d'année. Le bilan est globalement satisfaisant, c'est positif, tout s'est bien déroulé.
It is the end of the national end-of-year exams. Benin is generally satisfied. It is positive that everything is going well throughout the country and with all the participants without an exception. I think this is the right time to say a big thank you to everyone, in particular to the government, which is providing all the resources, and to all the organizers, not forgetting those responsible for the examinations, the examination authorities, and the general management of the baccalaureate office at all levels. The wish, especially for us at this establishment, is for that which is only good. The start of the 2023 to 2024 school year is scheduled for 18th of September 2023 in accordance with the interministerial order setting the school calendar, with the summer holidays scheduled for 28th of June 2024. Moving on to Gabon, a report titled 105 Promises, 13 Achievements takes a closer look at the second 7-year term of Gabonese President Ali Bongo. The report also notes that 30% of civil servants' positions have been allocated to women, bills passed to improve port activity, including the construction of a commercial port.
A report titled 105 Promises, 13 Achievements takes a closer look at the second 7-year term of Gabonese President Ali Bongo. Gabonese economists Mais Mouissi and Harold Lecat assess in a 196-page long document the efficiency of the Bongo administration. And results do not live up to expectations. In a country of less than 2.5 million inhabitants with gas, mineral and oil deposits, the unemployment rate rose.
Generally speaking, most of the infrastructure projects promised by the president have not been carried out. I'm speaking about road project, the 5 hydroelectric dams, schools, the digital knowledge city he promised, the 700 nurseries and so on. If you want to look at it from a macroeconomic perspective, the unemployment rate has risen from 28% to 32%. As for poverty, a third, 35% of Gabonese live below the poverty line on less than $2 a day, and access to basic social services has totally disintegrated.
The report also notes that 30% of civil servant positions have been allocated to women, bills passed to improve port activity, including the construction of a commercial port and an oil port in Owendo, as well as the preservation of territorial waters. But much still needs to be done. Mais Mouissi says the health condition of the president shouldn't be used as an excuse. Bongo suffered a stroke in 2018.
I think we have to be clear. We mustn't hide behind the president's stroke to justify this failure, because the reality is that had the president felt unable to govern after his stroke, he would have resigned. If he remained in charge, it was because he felt able to govern. We've taken into account the fact that there was COVID. But let us be serious. In many African countries, we can follow the progress of many projects. I can mention a well-known example, that of Côte d'Ivoire. It shows that we are faced with a problem of governance, leadership.
The report's authors hope the initiative will raise public awareness ahead of the August 26 presidential polls. President Ali Bongo and his fiercest rival, Jean Ping, are expected to go again head-to-head.
Cubic, a startup company, is proud of its pioneering climate-friendly technology that recycles one of the world's environmental curses, plastic waste, into construction blocks.
Cubic is proud of its pioneering climate-friendly technology that recycles one of the world's environmental curses, plastic waste, into construction blocks. He has just completed a round of funding for several $1 million to scale up production, a success that coincided with a prestigious AFRCA award for the company, which boosted visibility.
So what we're able to do today in the one factory that we have in Ethiopia is convert 13 million kilos of plastic waste every single year and convert it into over 5,000 affordable housing units every single year.
But for the award-winning Ethiopian startup, to achieve liftoff has been no easy task. It has had to fight tooth and nail to raise funds, says the youthful boss.
When it comes to raising money as a startup, it's an uphill battle in the beginning, and it's a very scary thing, especially when it's the first startup that you're forming. In my case, I was very fortunate that I had a group of people, both from family, friends, business acquaintances from the past, that really knew me, really believed in what we were doing, and were willing to give us that initial catalytic seed that we needed to get going.
Funding is a major problem for entrepreneurs in Africa. Out of $415 billion in capital risk deployed around the world, just over 1% goes to Africa. When you look at the amount of venture capital deployed around the world, barely 1% goes to Africa. So there's a real need to increase the amount of venture capital coming into Africa. Cubic's recycling generates just a fifth of the carbon from cement making. If Cubic's plant processes 45 tons of dish plastic each day, that's 100,000 tons of carbon dioxide averted each year.
Human Rights Watch on Friday urged Tunisia to put an end to what it called the collective expulsions of black African migrants to a desert area near the Libyan border. More details in the report. Human Rights Watch on Friday urged Tunisia to put an end to what it called the collective expulsions of black African migrants to a desert area near the Libyan border. Hundreds of migrants from sub-Saharan Africa have been left stranded in dire conditions in the south of Tunisia since being driven out of the port city of Sfax in the past week.
We didn't come here to stay. We came here just to cross over to Europe. But that's impossible. The National Guard is stopping us. We're here and we're not free. We're attacked every time. They drive us out of our homes, so it's not normal. We did not come here to Tunisia to stay.
The rights group's statement comes against the backdrop of violence after the funeral of a 41-year-old Tunisian man who was stabbed to death in Sfax on Monday in a brawl between Tunisians and migrants.
At Human Rights Watch, we have documented collective expulsions of black African migrants, both on the border with Libya, where it is estimated that there are about 500 to 700 of them. But the Tunisian security forces are also carrying out expulsions on the Algerian side. But for the moment, we have less information about their numbers.
Sfax, the North African country's second largest city, is a departure point for many hoping to reach Europe by sea, often the Italian island of Lampedusa, about 130 kilometers away. HRW's Lauren Seibert urged Tunisia's government to halt collective expulsions and urgently enable humanitarian access to the African migrants and asylum seekers already expelled to a dangerous area.
We are asking the Tunisian authorities to stop the arbitrary expulsions of black African migrants, but also to allow access and assistance to those who are at the borders with both Libya and Algeria. The countries of this nationale should also do everything they can to help them.
The group said migrants it interviewed alleged several people died or were killed at the border area between Sunday and Wednesday, some shot and others beaten by Tunisian security forces. Tunisia has seen a rise in racially motivated attacks after President Kais Saied in February accused hordes of undocumented migrants of bringing violence and alleging a criminal plot to change the country's demographic makeup. And in Congo, President Felix Tshisekedi said on Thursday that he was planning to sign a security agreement with South Africa as militias continue to occupy swaths of turbulent eastern Congo. Now, in a news conference with South African President Cyril Ramaphosa in the capital Kinshasa, Tshisekedi explained that the accord could take the form of a mutual defense pact.
Congolese President Felix Tshisekedi said on Thursday that he was planning to sign a security agreement with South Africa as militias continue to occupy swaths of turbulent eastern Congo. In a news conference with South African President Cyril Ramaphosa in the capital Kinshasa, Tshisekedi explained that the accord would take place in the form of mutual defense pact.
On the issue of security, South Africa has been heavily invested and heavily present in the DRC on the eastern side, and we are also going to strengthen that relationship by having a bilateral agreement on security and defense.
The Congolese president highlighted the Mutual Defense Pact of the South African Development Community, SADC. Both the DRC and South Africa are members of the 16-nation SADC.
C'est un continent de près de 2 milliards d'habitants, un marché de près de 2 milliards d'habitants. Et si nous résolvons le problème de l'intégration continentale, je crois que nous allons arriver à devenir une puissance économique et commerciale qui rivalisera avec les autres puissances économiques et commerciales de ce monde.
And the idea that we should have a minerals commission which will assist all of us, particularly in SADC, to manage our minerals correctly so that they are not plundered by those from outside our region and continent, so that we establish policies so that we are able to attract investments.
Armed groups have plagued much of the eastern DRC for 3 decades, a legacy of regional wars that flared in the 1990s and early 2000s.
In South Africa, the death toll from a toxic gas leak linked to illegal mining has risen to 17, including 3 children.
The death toll from a toxic gas leak in an informal settlement in South Africa has risen to 17, including 3 children with at least 10 people hospitalized. The leak of toxic nitrate gas happened on Wednesday in Boksburg on the outskirts of Johannesburg, with authorities saying it came from canisters kept by illegal gold miners. We feel really bad because none of us expected that something like this could happen. We just can't believe it. We knew that illegal miners use generators in their trade. We had no idea that they also used gas, so we never expected something like this to happen. Last night, I was at home when I got a call telling me that people are dying. When I arrived at the scene, I found that people were really dead. I found my son and my daughter-in-law dead. On Thursday, police searched the shacks for evidence and removed any gas canisters they found.
At the moment, the police have opened inquest docket and also to investigate as to how did those gases come to be here and how did the gas leak. That will also be part of the investigation. And currently here, it seems like there was some kind of an illegal mining operation whereby the police have also found illegal mining equipment.
South Africa is home to thousands of illegal miners who go in search of precious metals, stones or coal. Fatalities are common, with 31 illegal miners dying in a gas explosion at the end of June.
The planet's temperature spiked on Tuesday to its hottest day in decades and likely centuries, and Wednesday could become the third straight day Earth unofficially marks a record-breaking high.
The death toll from a toxic gas leak in an informal settlement in South Africa has risen to 17, including 3 children with at least 10
decades and likely centuries, and Wednesday could become the third straight day Earth unofficially marks a record-breaking high. It is the latest in the series of climate change extremes that alarm but doesn't surprise scientists. The globe's average temperature reached 62.9 degrees Fahrenheit on Tuesday, according to the University of Maine's Climate Reanalyzer, a common tool based on satellite data, observations, and computer simulations, and used by climate scientists for a glimpse of the world's condition.
These years and these summers right now with expectations for continuation of emissions, these can be on average some of the coolest years for the next few decades. So put another way, it is warming and it's the warmest we've ever seen, but also if you continue on that trajectory, it becomes the coolest years, cool summers that we will experience for the next couple of years.
On Monday, the average temperature was 62.6 degrees Fahrenheit, setting a record that lasted only 24 hours. For scientists, it is a sweaty case of "I told you so."
An event such as this, in which there is a rise in temperatures that at least tentatively appear to be some kind of a record, it's within the realm of the climate is warming, and we are starting to see events that remind us that the climate change is real, and we will see events like this more commonly in the future.
Scientists generally use much longer measurements, months, years, decades, to track the Earth warming, but the daily highs are an indication that climate change is reaching uncharted territory. With many places seeing temperatures near 100 degrees Fahrenheit, the new average temperatures might not seem very hot, but Tuesday's global high was nearly 1.8 degrees Fahrenheit, a full degree Celsius, higher than the 1979 to 2000 average, which already tops the 20th and 19th century averages. High temperature records were surpassed this week in Quebec and Peru. Beijing reported 9 straight days last week when the temperature exceeded 95 degrees Fahrenheit, and cities across the U.S. have been hovering at all-time highs. The fuel prices in Kenya hit sky-high prices following a recent increase in taxes. Now, the country's Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority announces changes in pump prices as it began implementing 16% value-added tax, according to the new finance bill.
A 12-year peak in fuel prices welcomed Kenyans as they entered the new month this week. Under the new price regime, a litre of petrol in the capital, retailing at around $1.29 before July 1st, is now selling at $1.39. A litre of diesel, on the other hand, has increased from $1.19 to $1.28. Meanwhile, an equivalent amount of kerosene is retailing at $1.23 from the previous price of $1.15. The surge in fuel costs is a result of changes included in controversial finance bill signed into law last week by President William Ruto. The bill's adoption came after weeks of strong opposition and days of intense debates by lawmakers in Parliament. Motorists in the capital say the new pump prices is an added burden, with high prices of basic commodities already squeezing their pockets.
So I have lost customers and business has been hit. I don't make what I used to earn before, and customers are asking me why we are charging them more.
We call on the government to reduce the cost of fuel. They can bring back subsidies to take the cost where it was before. They can then get that revenue from things like clothes, because those are one-time purchases.
The changes in fuel prices was expected not to come into force over the weekend after a High Court order suspended the implementation of the 16% value-added tax on petroleum products part of the finance bill. But in a defiance move, Kenya's Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority went ahead with increasing fuel prices. The move by the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority has angered some lawmakers who say the decision is contempt of court. They have now come out and given the regulator an ultimatum to revert fuel prices to the initial June 14th review or face them in court. Aside from the impact on motorists, the new prices are set to have ripple effects on the economy as well.
Definitely will have a ripple effect in various sectors of the economy. I think about food, which relies on some of those inputs. There's fuel component that has to be baked into food production. Manufacturing also will be affected.
Anxiety is mostly on how the price surge could worsen inflationary pressures and likely compel the central bank to tighten monetary policy.
Last week's emergency policy meeting, and to me that one was like anticipating. So the policy response, 100 basis points, 1 percentage point increase in the policy rate. It was in a way trying to preempt the Finance Act implications, because there's been a raft of tax policy measures which have been contained in the Finance Act, which might have some inflationary measures. So I think for the month of July, they might sit out and see the impact of that 100 basis points increase that they did last week. And then potentially come September, at least now they'll have the data for July, they'll have the data for August, and then they can now be able to assess whether there'll be a need of reducing or increasing the rates.
There was temporary relief for Kenyans in the month of June, with inflation easing to 7.9%. The relief, however, is expected to be short-lived as revenue collection measures contained in the Finance Act take effect in the new fiscal year.
To end this news edition, here's a recap of our top stories. Human Rights Watch on Friday urged Tunisia to put an end to what it called the collective expulsions of Black African migrants. A report titled 105 Promises, 13 Achievements takes a closer look at the second 7-year term of Gabonese President Ali Bongo. Cubic, a startup company, is proud of its pioneering climate-friendly technology that recycles one of the world's environmental curses, plastic waste, into construction block. This is where we conclude today's news edition, coming to you live from Golfe Africa. I am Itunu Shoneye. Enjoy the rest of your day.